Lighting for your videos is so important. Just count how many I have in this one scene. I've got one up there, one back here, one there, one in the background. The computer's on, technically that's a light, and I've got a big one here, and that's what we want to talk about today. What is going on, Mark Duffy? Welcome to my channel. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking to you about the new GVM SD300B Pro bicolor LED and Softbox kit. Full disclosure, GVM did send this out to me and I do get to keep it, but it has no impact in what I'm going to say. The design and build quality of this light is fantastic, very similar to what you'd find with like the Aperture 120D, all metal construction with the heavier duty handles for a more stable and robust setting, so you can really fine tune the direction that you want the light to be pointing at. It has a V-mount attachment to the side of the handle, and that's where your transformer is going to sit onto. Though I would have liked to have a second option to hang the transformer down the light stand when you are mounting the light at a higher height. Then you need a very long cable just to get to the transformer, and they have a very long cable from the transformer to the light, which doesn't make any sense considering it's attached basically to the side of the light. It also makes the light heavier because you've got the light and the transformer. That's the whole idea, to separate those, is that it doesn't leave it so top heavy. So that would be one, I think that's the only con I found of the whole light, was that was just, it was a good idea, but it hasn't fully translated, I don't feel. If you're enjoying this video, maybe give it a like and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out. The light folds up to a really nice compact size and goes into a lovely travel case that comes with the light, and you also get your 7-inch reflector. Though I'm not the biggest fan of this style of dimpling that you see inside the reflector. It kind of gives the light a little bit of a hot spot. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I usually don't use them, and I have my own reflectors that if I am using a 7-inch reflector, I'll just use those as default and not use the ones that come with these kind of lights. I would say that the light stand could have been better. It is of decent quality, and I like the fact that it is air cushioned, so if you don't hook it up properly and it does go to slip, it's not going to slam down and fall. The air cushioning will do its job and cushion the impact as it slides back down into place. I would have liked maybe a slightly heavier duty light stand just because of the weight of the light itself. The Softbox is lovely. You can see here it's not the biggest size. I would more have this as a kicker. I love how it opens, the operation. I've never actually used one of them. I've seen them before, but I've used it, and it's so simple. In this example here, I not only have the diffusion on it, I also have the grid, which leaves even more tension, and you can still easily open and close it. Absolutely fantastic. Love this. Overall, I found the light to be very quiet until you get into the higher power, you know, up past 60%, then the fan is going to come on quite a bit. But you know, when you're at that kind of strength, you're not going to be at this distance, you know, like it's just the other side of the camera. One cool feature I like is the actual branding, the GVM. When you turn the light on, it actually lights. So that is actually lit up, and I think it's really, really cool. When it comes to the functionalities on the light, it's what you kind of expect. You can change your color temperature, and you can select in and all that there, and then you can go into your different effects, and I don't really use the effects, but they're there and they're fairly handy to get to. You can also use an app, and the app is really cool to use. The app is so simple. It's very, very quick to actually just navigate around, and if you lock your phone, it still connects up. Some of them kind of go a little bit haywire. For the strength I have it here right now at this minute in this scene, I have it at 0.3%. That is ridiculous. So if I go up here to like 4, now it went off there because it's just so close to being practically off, like that's 5% power, and we're already overexposing the scene. We'll go back up to where I was, if I can get it back to where I was. Let's see. Oh, you can just tap. You can tap on the minus button and you'll go by 0.1% at a time. And that's the same with the dial at the back that I really like. The increments are 0.1%. That is so accurate. I don't know if you need to be that accurate, but for today's video, I definitely needed to be that accurate with the settings for this scene. And that brings us to our next point, color accuracy. It is phenomenally color accurate. It's rated at 97 plus CRI. I'm at 0.3%. When you get to the lower power ranges of different lights, that's when you normally start seeing them kind of flicker, especially the bicolor lights that kind of jump between just ever so slightly. This is perfect. From 0.1% to 100%, it is at whatever you set it at. Really impressed by that. And then the next thing we have to talk about then is the elephant in the room, and that is how powerful is it? 12,000 lux to the meter, and I'm less than a meter. I think that's how it's calculated. Anyway, it says 12,000 lux, and I absolutely believe it, because The settings I have for this video are no different to the settings I have in any other video when I'm doing on YouTube. And usually I'm using the 20mm f1.8 at f1.8. To get the scene lit properly, it's normally at ISO 1600. I'm at ISO 800 and the light is at 0.3%. Normally I'm using an Amaran 100D, which has actually been used right here. And that's normally set at about 18%, and I'm using 0.3%. Also, you can see here, that light up there is not bicolor, it is just white balanced, and these match. And that's the great thing about the new LED technology, is that it's so accurate to the CRI. You can mix brands. I have a GVM and I have an Amaran. Now, neither are probably going to want to hear me saying that, but that's the honest truth. There are going to be times on shoots that you are not going to have enough lights. You're going to be doing some product photography and you may need 3 or 4 lights and you only own 2. So what are you going to do? You're going to have to mix them. So if they are color accurate, that means when you mix them together, you're not going to have some weird color hues and stuff in your scenes, and that's absolutely fantastic. Maybe you're seeing calls upon that you need the ability to see out the window, see that fresh rain on the window because you live in Ireland like I do. You need to combat that light while maintaining your f2.8 and your native ISO of 800. So you bring on a variable ND and you bring in these lights. So I have the variable ND set to strength 4 for this scene, and I'm going to bring in my key light right here. Keep going, keep going. I'm going to go up to all the way up to 100%. I have it gridded, so it's really only going to be affecting me. It shouldn't really be bouncing too much on the curtains behind me. Because I'm using the BD45 tube light by GVM, I can also use that on the app, so I'll bring that into 100% and see what that looks like. So it looks quite nice. Now, I'm a musician, haven't played on stages for years, so I'm used to very bright lights facing me and being able to see past that. Some of your clients, some of your subjects or whatever, your acts, your actors, may not be too comfortable with it, so you may just need to test with them at that kind of strength and decide for yourself. But you can see from here, that looks pretty well. And you can change, you know, like the great thing with this here as well is you can change the color. There we have it. I have it right down to 2700 Kelvin, bring it right back up to 6300 Kelvin. There is still ambient light coming in the window, which is very green because of all the greenery that's outside the scene. So I'm kind of combating that. I'm going to hit it with extra blue. So normally this would match light to light, but in this instance with all the extra ambient light, I'm kind of having a bit of trouble with that. And like I said, it's gridded. So what would it be like if I remove the grid? Is it going to add more spill to the back, maybe light up the back, maybe the mirror and the curtains can get a little bit more. So let's do that right now. I can tell straight away that's far brighter. I can feel it on my face. It's like, get me a suntan. So let's bring that way down, just until I get comfort level for my own eyes. So let me see, I'm going to look at the screen, see what my exposure should be. And I'm on the wrong thing. I've selected the tube light and I'm not controlling the key light. You're going to run into that. You're going to run into that all the time. It happens on any app that you use. You forget which light you've selected into. Okay, I am on. That's the only thing I don't like about the app. It doesn't actually tell you when you're in the controls. It doesn't actually tell you that you're on that light. You need to go back into the main section of it. So when you're actually controlling the temperature and the power, it doesn't actually say you're using the 300B, you're using the BD45. So it's one thing I don't overly like on that one. Now, let me see, I'm going to bring this down to probably in and around, leave it there. I think that's okay. Let me have a look on the screen. Yeah, that looks okay. So we're at about 50, no, we're not. We're at 64%, 64.3%. There's a lot of wiggle room. There's a lot of headroom, as they'd call it, between 64 and 100%. We could darken this scene even more. I could reduce the brightness in this through the aperture. So instead of using the variable ND, I could use the aperture instead. So go from f2.8 maybe to f4. See what happens with one stop down. So if we go down 1, 2, 3. So there you go. That's down to f4 from f2.8. That's one full stop. Looks a little bit bright still on my face, so just bring it down a little bit more, maybe down to f4.5. How does that look? That looks pretty good there, you know. So we're after dropping from f2.8 to f4.5. That's a stop and a third with this light. That is serious power. And all I have on it, I have the softbox, and it's not a big softbox. This is the thing, this is not a big softbox. So you could get a bigger softbox, you wouldn't have that kind of power range. But you know, if you don't mind the slightly harsher shadows, shoot it through a scrim, you're gonna get so much more light out of this again. Maybe we should try that. Let's try that. Let's shoot through a scrim and see how soft we can get the light and still maintain quite a lot of power to darken that background. And that's what this looks like. Really soft, really nice. And again, we're able to combat all that ambient light coming in the window. I like this. I quite like it. If you don't care for spill, this is spill central. You've really no control over the light. The light's hitting this diffusion, it's going everywhere. It's also in part reflecting back into the room as well. So you've got combinations of different things, but if you look at any behind the scenes of interviews and advertisements, commercial, whatever, you will see something similar to this. Very, very typical. The old way of doing things was using a shower curtain, just drape it and shoot through it, but you get all that light. Now the thing is, with all that light coming in like this here, it's at 100%, but it's not actually that harsh on my eyes. If I was to prefer one over the other, I would prefer this over the Softbox because it's not as direct because of all that spill. The only real downside of this kit is I would have preferred a bigger Softbox. This Softbox, like I said, is perfect for using for a kicker, so a nice soft kicker, as opposed to just using a reflector. Having a nice soft, soft light Softbox, it looks, especially on a bald person like me, you get too much of these harsh lines on my head, where if I use a Softbox, it'll actually graduate across my head and is far nicer. So this smaller size, I think it's about 23 inches. It's too small as a key light the way I have it lit. Maybe having it right in the middle, like a clamshell above and then a reflector below, that would work really nice with this Softbox. For price, it's coming in at a very affordable €389. Don't forget, this is a 300 watt LED giving 12,000 lux. Normally those lights are up past €800-900. This is coming in at €389. I don't know what it is for the entire kit. I couldn't find it under site. If I can find the price, I'll put it on the screen. But I reckon about 500, 520, and that's a good price. That's a very good price for the power output, the color accuracy, the robust build, and then overall design and the app and everything going. That is very, very affordable these days. So I hope you enjoyed this, you got something from it. If you did, give that video a like, maybe subscribe to the channel and ring that bell to get notified every time I post up a new video. You can find me on all the social medias under Mark Duffy Photography, and until the next time, later gators.